A waitress found a dying teenager in an alley behind her diner. His phone had one contact, Dad, Iron Brotherhood MC. She made the call that saved his life. What she didn't know, the biker who arrived was a man caught between two worlds, and her one act of kindness just pulled her into a war she never asked for. The grease under Maria's fingernails wouldn't come out no matter how hard she scrubbed. She'd been at Ruby's highway diner for 14 hours straight, covering Linda's morning shift because Linda's kid had the flu, then her own evening shift because rent was due in 3 days and she was $40 short. Her feet screamed with every step as she dragged the last trash bag toward the dumpster behind the diner. The November air bit at her cheeks, cold enough to see her breath but not cold enough to freeze the puddles in the alley. Midnight had come and gone. The highway beyond the parking lot hummed with the occasional truck, their headlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights. Maria heaved the bag toward the dumpster and that's when she saw him. A boy. Crumpled against the brick wall like a discarded coat. Her heart jumped into her throat. "Hey," she called out, dropping the trash bag. "Hey, are you okay?" No response. She moved closer, her sneakers splashing through a puddle. The kid looked young, maybe 16 or 17. His jeans were torn at the knee, and his hoodie was pulled up over his head. One arm was twisted beneath him at an angle that made Maria's stomach turn. "Can you hear me?" She knelt beside him, her hand hovering over his shoulder. She'd seen plenty of passed-out drunks in her 3 years at Ruby's, but this felt different. His face was too pale, his lips slightly blue. Maria's fingers found his neck, pressing gently. There, a pulse. Weak, but there. Okay, she muttered to herself, fumbling for her phone. She should call 911. That's what normal people did. But the ambulance would take 20 minutes to get out here, maybe longer, and this kid didn't look like he had 20 minutes. His phone was half visible in his hoodie pocket, the screen cracked like a spider web. Maria pulled it out carefully. It was locked, but the emergency screen was still accessible. Emergency contacts, Dad, Iron Brotherhood MC. Maria's hand froze. Iron Brotherhood. She knew that name. Everyone within 50 miles of the highway knew that name. The motorcycle club that ran the backroads, the one with the reputation that made even the truckers nervous. The one her manager, Ruby, had warned her about when she first started. You see those leather jackets with the iron cross, you keep your head down and pour their coffee fast. But this was a kid. A kid who might be dying in a puddle behind a truck stop diner. Maria's thumb hovered over the call button. What if they blamed her? What if they thought she'd hurt him? What if? The boy's breath hitched, shallow and desperate. She pressed call. The phone rang once. Twice. On the third ring, a voice answered, rough as gravel, suspicious as a locked door. Who is this? Maria's voice came out smaller than she intended. I found a boy. He's unconscious. His phone says you're his dad. Silence. Not the empty kind. The loaded kind. Where are you? The man's voice had changed, sharp now, urgent. Ruby's highway diner. Out on Route 47. The alley behind. Don't move him. Don't let anyone take him. I'm 10 minutes out. Wait, should I call an ambulance? He's really. 10 minutes. Stay with him. The line went dead. Maria stared at the phone, then at the boy. His chest was still rising and falling, but barely. She shrugged off her thin jacket and draped it over him, trying to keep him warm without moving him too much. Your dad's coming, she whispered, though she didn't know if he could hear her. Just hold on. The minutes crawled by like hours. Maria kept her fingers on his pulse, counting the beats, telling herself that as long as she could feel them, he was still alive. A truck rumbled past on the highway. A dog barked in the distance. Then she heard it. The growl of a motorcycle engine, getting closer. Louder. Not the polite put-put of a weekend rider, but the deep, threatening roar of something built for power. A single headlight swung into the alley, bright enough to make Maria squint. The engine cut off, and in the sudden silence, she heard boots hitting pavement. The man who walked into the light looked exactly like what Maria had imagined and nothing like it at the same time. He was tall, over 6 feet, with broad shoulders wrapped in a leather jacket that had seen better decades. A salt and pepper beard covered half his face, and a scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone. His eyes, though, they were what made Maria's breath catch. Cold and gray as winter steel when they first landed on her, then something else entirely when they dropped to the boy on the ground. Fear. Raw and immediate. Tyler, the name came out like a prayer. The man, Ryder, she assumed, dropped to his knees beside the boy with a speed that seemed impossible for someone his size. His hands moved over Tyler's body, checking for injuries with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this before. What happened? He demanded, not looking at Maria. I don't know. I found him like this when I took out the trash. He's been unconscious the whole time. Did you see anyone? Any cars? Anyone running? No, the diner's been dead since 11. I didn't see anything. Ryder's jaw clenched. He pulled out his own phone and dialed. Hawk. Ruby's Diner on 47. I need you to run the cameras at the bus depot, the gas station on Miller, and the warehouse district. Now, a pause. Because my son is lying in an alley half dead, and someone's going to answer for it. Maria's heart hammered. His son. This was real. This was dangerous. This was exactly the kind of trouble she'd spent her whole life trying to avoid. Ryder ended the call and finally looked at her. Really looked at her. His expression shifted slightly, still hard, but with an edge of something that might have been gratitude. You called. I couldn't just leave him. Most people would have. Before Maria could respond, Tyler stirred. His eyes fluttered open, dark brown, confused, terrified. They fixed on Ryder. Dad? The word came out slurred, uncertain. Ryder's expression cracked, just for a second. I'm here. They found me. They said. Tyler's eyes rolled back, and he went limp again. We need to get him to a hospital, Maria said urgently. Ryder scooped Tyler up like he weighed nothing, cradling him against his chest. County General. You're coming with me. What? No, You're the only witness. Ryder's eyes pinned her in place. And if someone's watching, they already know you helped him. You're in this now whether you like it or not. Maria looked at the boy's pale face, at the desperation in Ryder's eyes, at her jacket still clutched in her trembling hands. She was $40 short on rent. She had a double shift again tomorrow. She had no business getting involved with bikers and unconscious teenagers and whatever nightmare she'd just stumbled into. But she'd made the call. And Ryder was right. She was already in it. Okay, Maria heard herself say. Let's go. County General's emergency room smelled like disinfectant and burnt coffee. Maria sat in a plastic chair that squeaked every time she shifted, watching Ryder pace like a caged animal in front of the intake desk. He'd carried Tyler through the automatic doors 20 minutes ago, and the nurses had whisked the boy away on a gurney, leaving them both in the fluorescent-lit waiting area. Family only beyond this point, the nurse had said, clipboard in hand, eyeing Ryder's leather jacket with barely concealed suspicion. Ryder had looked like he wanted to argue, but Tyler had already disappeared through the double doors. Now Maria was stuck. She'd followed Ryder's motorcycle in a taxi, $32 she didn't have, and the driver had left her here without waiting for payment, probably sensing the tension radiating off the biker in the parking lot. Miss Santos? Maria jerked her head up. A doctor in blue scrubs stood before her, tired eyes scanning a tablet. "That's me." "You're the one who found the patient?" "Yes, behind the diner where I work." Ryder stopped pacing and moved closer, looming behind her chair. The doctor glanced at him, then back to Maria. "Can you describe his condition when you found him? Any visible injuries? Smell of alcohol?" "No alcohol," Maria said quickly. "He was just collapsed. Not moving. His pulse was weak, and his lips looked blue. I thought maybe dehydration. Or exhaustion." "Dehydration," Ryder's voice cut through the space like a blade. "You think some kid passes out from dehydration with bruises on his ribs and defensive wounds on his arms?" The doctor's eyebrow raised. "Sir, are you family?" Ryder's jaw worked. "I'm his father." "Do you have documentation? Birth certificate, custody papers?" The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush diamonds. "I just found out he existed 3 hours ago," Ryder said finally, his voice dangerously quiet. The doctor blinked. Maria could see her trying to process that information, trying to fit it into whatever boxes medical bureaucracy required. "I see. Well, without proper documentation, I can't release information to you or allow you past." "Then who's listed as his next of kin?" Ryder demanded. The doctor scrolled through her tablet. "His mother, Catherine Brennan. We've been trying to reach her, but she's dead." Ryder's words fell like stones. 3 months ago. Lung cancer." Maria's chest tightened. She watched the doctor's expression shift from professional detachment to something closer to sympathy. "I'm sorry," the doctor said. "But I still need to verify." "I can verify," a new voice joined them. Maria turned to see a police officer approaching, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. He nodded at Ryder. "Officer Chen. We met about 4 years back, after that incident on Highway 9". Ryder's expression darkened. "The one where I testified." "That's right." Chen pulled out a small notebook. "Got a call about a minor brought in with suspicious injuries. Dispatch said the name was Tyler Brennan." He paused. "Katie Brennan's boy? You knew her?" Ryder's voice had lost some of its edge. "She worked at the clinic downtown. Good woman. Heard she passed." Chen looked at the doctor. "If this is Katie's son, and she's deceased, then next of kin would be the father. Katie's sister lives in Oregon. I can call her to confirm, but it'll take time." The doctor sighed. "Fine. But I need proper paperwork filed by morning." She turned to Maria. "And I need your full statement about finding him. The injuries we're seeing aren't consistent with a simple collapse." Maria's stomach dropped. "What kind of injuries?" "Blunt force trauma to the torso. Defensive bruising on his forearms. Ligature marks on his wrists." The doctor's voice was clinical, but her eyes were angry. "Someone hurt this boy deliberately." Ryder's hands curled into fists. "Where is he?" "Stable. Unconscious again, but his vitals are improving. Room 347, but..." Ryder was already moving toward the doors. "Sir, you can't." Officer Chen held up a hand. "Let him see his son. Document. I'll supervise." The doctor looked like she wanted to argue but finally nodded. 10 minutes. As Ryder disappeared through the double doors with Chen, Maria found herself alone in the waiting area. She should leave. Call another taxi. Go home to her apartment with the leaking faucet and the neighbor who played music too loud. Pretend this night had never happened. But she could still feel Tyler's weak pulse under her fingers. Could still hear Ryder's voice crack when he said his son's name. 45 minutes later, Ryder emerged. His face was carved from granite, but his eyes blazed with something Maria recognized from her own childhood in foster care, the fury of someone who'd failed to protect what mattered most. He walked straight to Maria and stopped. He woke up for a minute, Ryder said, his voice rough. Said 3 men grabbed him at the bus depot yesterday. Asked if he was Ryder's kid. When he said yes, they beat him and dumped him in that alley. Maria's blood ran cold. Why? Because someone wants to send me a message. Ryder's hands shook, not with fear, but with barely contained rage. And they used my son to do it. I'm so sorry, but I really should. How long have you known him? Ryder interrupted, his eyes boring into hers. What? Tyler. How long have you known my son? Maria stood, her own anger rising. 30 minutes before I called you. I'm a waitress who found a dying kid in an alley. That's it. I don't know him. I don't know you. And I really need to go home now. Something in Ryder's expression shifted. You're right. I'm sorry. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn wallet, extracting several bills. For the taxi. And thank you. For not walking away. Maria stared at the money, easily $200, then at his face. Keep it, she said quietly. Just take care of your son. She walked toward the exit, her legs trembling, desperate for fresh air and distance and normal life. Behind her, she heard Ryder's voice, barely a whisper but sharp enough to stop her cold. They think you're with me now. Which means you're already a target. Maria turned slowly. What? Ryder's face was grim. Whoever did this, they're watching. They saw you call me. They saw you come here. He paused. I'm sorry, but your normal life just ended. Maria didn't sleep. She'd gone home at 2 a.m., locked every door and window in her tiny apartment, and spent the next 5 hours staring at the ceiling, jumping at every sound. At 6:30, she gave up and got dressed for her morning shift. Ruby's Highway Diner looked exactly the same as it always did, neon sign buzzing, parking lot half full of truckers grabbing breakfast before the road. Like the previous night had been a fever dream. Except Maria could still feel Tyler's pulse under her fingers. Could still see the rage in Ryder's eyes. You look like hell, Ruby said when Maria clocked in. The older woman stood behind the counter, her gray hair pulled back in its usual bun, her expression concerned. You sick? Didn't sleep well. Take booth 7. Mrs. Chen wants her usual. Maria nodded and grabbed a pot of coffee, slipping into the familiar rhythm of morning rush. Pour coffee. Take orders. Deliver plates. Smile. Repeat. The normalcy of it felt like a lifeline. She was refilling Mr. Patterson's mug when the door chimed. Ryder walked in. The diner didn't go quiet, not exactly, but the energy shifted. Conversations continued, but eyes tracked the tall man in the leather jacket as he crossed to an empty booth in Maria's section. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being afraid of a room. Maria's hands went cold. She set down the coffee pot and approached his table, very aware of Ruby watching from the counter. What are you doing here? She hissed, pulling out her order pad to make it look normal. Ryder sat down slowly, his gray eyes sweeping the diner before settling on her face. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. Coffee. Black, he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Then, quieter, we need to talk. No. We don't. Maria's pen trembled against the pad. I helped your son. That's done. I can't. Tyler's awake. Really awake this time. Ryder's voice was still low, but there was something in it that made Maria pause. He asked about you. The woman who found him. Despite herself, Maria felt a flicker of relief. He's okay. Stable. Bruised ribs, mild concussion, dehydration. They want to keep him another day for observation. Ryder's jaw tightened. He told me everything. His mom never told him about me, not my name, not where to find me. When she died, he found an old photo in her things. Back of it said, Ryder, 2008, he spent 2 months tracking me down. Maria glanced toward the counter. Ruby was still watching. Why are you telling me this? Because you called when you didn't have to. You stayed at the hospital when you could have left. Ryder's voice softened, just slightly. You didn't walk away. That means something. Before Maria could respond, the diner door crashed open. A black SUV had mounted the curb outside, its engine still running. Through the window, Maria could see 2 men in the front seats. Get down. Ryder lunged across the table, grabbing Maria's arm and pulling her toward the floor. The brick came through the front window a second later. Glass exploded inward, showering the breakfast crowd. Screams erupted. Mr. Patterson dove under his table. Mrs. Chen's coffee cup shattered against the floor. Ruby was already reaching for the phone beneath the counter. The brick skidded across the linoleum and stopped 3 feet from Maria's face. Spray painted across it in red letters, Brotherhood dies. The SUV's tires squealed as it peeled away, disappearing down Route 47. Ryder was up instantly, his hand already reaching for something at his back, then stopping, remembering where he was. Instead, he pulled out his phone and took a photo of the brick before anyone could touch it. Maria's ears were ringing. Tiny cuts stung her cheek where glass had grazed her. Around them, people were standing slowly, checking themselves and each other for injuries. Ruby appeared, face pale but composed. Everyone okay? Anyone need an ambulance? A chorus of shaken, I'm fine, responses followed. Ruby's eyes landed on Ryder, then Maria. Her expression hardened. My office. Now. 5 minutes later, Maria stood in the tiny back office while Ruby called the police. Ryder waited outside the door. Ruby had made that very clear. You want to tell me why bikers are throwing bricks through my window? Ruby asked after she hung up. Maria's voice shook. I found a kid in the alley last night. Called his dad. That's him out there. And the brick? His enemies think I'm involved now. Ruby was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed, suddenly looking every one of her 63 years. You're a good girl, Maria. Always on time, never complain, work harder than anyone I've got. But I can't have gang wars in my diner. Maria's stomach plummeted. Ruby, please. I'm not firing you. But you need to handle this. Fast. Ruby's expression softened slightly. Whatever you're mixed up in, get yourself out of it before someone gets killed. You understand? Maria nodded numbly. When she emerged from the office, Ryder was standing by the broken window, helping a couple of truckers board it up with plywood from Ruby's storage shed. He saw her face and knew immediately. I'm sorry, he said simply. Maria looked at the boarded window, at the glass still glittering on the floor, at her normal life crumbling around her. They think I'm with you, she repeated his words from the hospital. Which means what, exactly? Ryder's expression was grim. It means they'll come after you to get to me. The Vipers, they're a splinter group from the Brotherhood. They want me back in the game, doing the things I stopped doing 5 years ago. Trafficking. Gun running. Worse. And if you don't? They'll take everything I care about. Ryder's voice dropped. They just found out I have a son. And now they think I have you. Maria laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. I poured your coffee. That's it. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they think. Ryder stepped closer, his voice urgent. I can protect you, but you have to let me. Protect me how? Come with me. You and Tyler. Somewhere they won't look. Maria stared at him. 24 hours ago, her biggest problem was $40 and a broken water heater. Now she was facing a choice, trust a biker she barely knew, or wait for the next brick, or worse. She thought about Tyler's weak pulse. About the spray-painted threat. About the cold certainty in Ryder's eyes. "One condition," Maria said. "You tell me everything. No more secrets." Ryder nodded slowly. "Deal." The Starlight Motel wasn't fit for rats, let alone people. Maria sat on the edge of a sagging bed in room 12, watching a cockroach navigate the water-stained ceiling while Ryder checked the locks on the door for the third time. "This is where you're staying?" she asked, unable to hide the judgment in her voice. "Cash only. No cameras. No questions." Ryder wedged a chair under the door handle. "The Vipers have people everywhere, motels, hotels, even some of the police. Here, I'm invisible." Maria wrapped her arms around herself. She'd grabbed one change of clothes from her apartment before Ryder insisted they leave. Ruby had given her 3 days off, unpaid, to sort out her situation, 3 days to figure out how to survive a gang war she hadn't asked to join. "Tyler's being discharged tomorrow morning," Ryder said, sitting in the room's only chair. It creaked under his weight. "Doctor wants to keep him one more night for observation, but he's healing." "Good," Maria meant it. The kid's face had haunted her all morning. "Now I keep my end of the deal." Ryder leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "You want the truth? Here it is. The Iron Brotherhood started 23 years ago. My brother Jack and I built it, not as a gang, but as a Real Brotherhood. Veterans, mechanics, guys who needed family when they had none. We did charity rides, helped struggling families, kept the peace on the highways." "What changed?" Maria asked quietly. "Money. Power. The usual poison." Ryder's voice was bitter. "Some of the younger members wanted more. Started small, protection rackets for truck stops, escort services for cargo shipments. Jack and I said no. They did it anyway. And? Jack died 5 years ago. Motorcycle accident on Route 9, except there were brake line cuts and paint transfer from another vehicle." Ryder's hands clenched. "The guys who wanted to expand the business, they removed the obstacle. Made it look clean." Maria's breath caught. "They killed your brother?" "I couldn't prove it. But I knew." Ryder's eyes were distant, remembering. "After Jack died, I tried to hold the line. Tried to keep the Brotherhood clean. But the faction that wanted crime, they called themselves the Vipers and split off. Took half our members with them." "Why didn't you just let them go?" "Because they kept the Iron Brotherhood name for their crimes. Every drug deal, every gun shipment, people blamed us. All of us." Ryder stood and began pacing. "So I made a deal with the DA. Gave them information on the Vipers' operations in exchange for immunity for the members who stayed clean. We testified. Put 6 Vipers in prison." "Let me guess," Maria said. "They didn't forgive you for that." "The leader, Carlos Venom Reyes, got 15 years. But his brother Diego runs things now. And Diego wants revenge." Ryder stopped at the window, peering through the stained curtains. "He wants me to rejoin them. Use my connections, my reputation. If I refuse, he destroys everything I have left." "Which is apparently a son you just met and a waitress who made a phone call," Maria said dryly. Ryder turned to face her. "I know how this sounds. I know you didn't sign up for any of this. But Tyler," his voice cracked slightly. "I didn't know he existed. His mother and I, we were together for 3 months, 16 years ago. She left without telling me why. I looked for her, but Katie didn't want to be found." "Why not?" "Because she was smart. She knew what my life was, what the Brotherhood was becoming. She wanted better for her son." Ryder's expression was raw. "And she was right. Look what happened the moment Tyler found me. He got beaten and dumped in an alley. Maria stood and crossed to where Ryder stood by the window. Outside, the afternoon sun beat down on the motel's cracked parking lot. "That's not your fault," she said quietly. "Tyler made his choice. He wanted to know his father. And now he might die because of it. Not if you protect him." Ryder looked at her, really looked at her, like he was trying to figure out how a 25-year-old waitress could sound so certain about things she barely understood. "Why are you helping?" he asked. "You could have walked away at the hospital. Hell, you could walk away right now." Maria thought about her childhood. 12 different foster homes. Case workers who barely remembered her name. The feeling of being disposable, forgettable. "Because someone should have called for me once," she said finally. "And nobody did." Before Ryder could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "What is it?" Maria asked. "Hawk. One of my guys, loyal to the original Brotherhood." Ryder opened the message and his face went pale. "He says Diego knows where Tyler is. The hospital's not safe anymore. But Tyler's being discharged tomorrow. We're getting him tonight. Right now." Ryder grabbed his jacket. "I need you to stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." "Absolutely not." Maria grabbed her own jacket, the same thin one she'd put over Tyler in the alley. "I'm coming with you." "Maria. You said they think I'm with you, right? That I matter to you?" She met his eyes. "Then prove it. Don't lock me in a roach motel like I'm helpless. Let me help." Ryder stared at her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "Okay. But you do exactly what I say. No arguments." "No arguments," Maria agreed. They were halfway to the door when Ryder stopped and turned back to her. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "someone should have called for you. You deserved better than what you got." Maria's throat tightened. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Then they headed out into the fading daylight, toward County General Hospital, where a 16-year-old boy waited, unaware that his father and a stranger-turned ally were about to walk into whatever trap Diego's Vipers had set. County General's parking lot was too quiet for 7 p.m. Maria noticed it immediately, the absence of people coming and going, the way the overhead lights seemed dimmer than they should be. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Ryder had noticed it too. His hand moved to his jacket, resting on something Maria suspected was a weapon. "Stay close to me. We go in through the east entrance, take the stairs to the 3rd floor. Avoid the elevators." They moved quickly across the parking lot. Maria's heart hammered against her ribs. Every shadow looked threatening. Every parked car could hide someone waiting. The east entrance was locked. After hours. "Damn it," Ryder pulled out his phone and texted rapidly. "Hawk's meeting us at the loading dock. He got Tyler out already, said 2 Vipers were asking questions at the nurse's station 20 minutes ago. Where is Tyler now?" "Safe. I hope." They circled the building to the loading dock, where a single figure waited beside a rusted pickup truck. The man was older than Ryder, maybe 50, with a gray beard braided down his chest and arms covered in faded tattoos. Despite his age, he looked like he could still break someone in half. "Hawk," Ryder greeted him. "Ryder," Hawk's voice was gravel and cigarettes. "Kids in the truck. Scared but unhurt. Hospital security's compromised, one of Diego's cousins works there. They knew the discharge time." Maria moved to the truck's passenger side. Tyler sat in the back seat, still wearing hospital clothes, his face pale but alert. When he saw her, his eyes widened. "You're the woman from the alley," he said softly. "Maria," she said. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." Tyler tried to smile but winced. "Thanks. For finding me." For calling. Before Maria could respond, Ryder appeared at the truck's driver's side. We need to move. Now. Where to? Hawk asked. Ryder was quiet for a moment, thinking. The old clubhouse. It's the last place they'd look, we haven't used it in 2 years. It's condemned, Ryder. Half the roof collapsed last winter. Which makes it perfect. Ryder climbed into the driver's seat. Maria, get in back with Tyler. Hawk, follow us in your bike. If anyone tails us, split off and lead them away. They drove in tense silence through the industrial part of town, past abandoned warehouses and graffitied walls. The old Iron Brotherhood clubhouse sat at the end of a dead-end road, surrounded by chain-link fence. The building looked like it had given up on life, windows boarded or broken, the parking lot cracked and overgrown with weeds. Ryder cut the engine. Stay in the truck until I clear it. He disappeared into the darkness. Maria watched through the windshield, her nerves stretched tight. Beside her, Tyler was shaking, whether from cold or fear, she couldn't tell. Hey, she said softly. You're safe now. Am I? Tyler's voice cracked. Those men at the bus depot, they said my dad destroyed their family. Said he was a rat who deserved to watch everything he loved burn. He looked at Maria with haunted eyes. Is that true? Is my dad a bad person? Maria chose her words carefully. Your dad made choices to protect people. Sometimes doing the right thing makes dangerous enemies. My mom never talked about him. Not once. Tyler's hands twisted in his lap. I thought maybe he was dead, or didn't want me, or, I don't know. When I found that photo, I needed to know. And now you do, Maria said gently. He came for you. He's protecting you. But I ruined everything. His club split because of me. You're in danger because of me. No, Maria turned to face him fully. The club split because of choices other people made. I'm here because I chose to call your father. None of this is on you. The truck door opened. Ryder stood there, but he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, both wearing torn leather vests with the faded Iron Brotherhood patch. We've got company, Ryder said, but his voice wasn't alarmed. The good kind. Inside the clubhouse, Maria's eyes adjusted to the dim light from battery-powered lanterns. The main room was devastated, collapsed ceiling beams, water damage, burned symbols spray-painted on the walls. But in the corner, a makeshift camp had been set up. Sleeping bags, supplies, a camping stove. The 2 men who'd been with Ryder stood near the camp. One was young, maybe 30, with a shaved head and nervous energy. The other was older, stocky, with a scar across his throat. This is Ghost and Finn, Ryder introduced them. What's left of the original Brotherhood? We heard about the kid, Ghost said, nodding at Tyler. Diego's spreading the word, anyone who helps Ryder becomes a target. How many are left? Ryder asked. How many stayed clean? 8 of us, Finn answered, his voice rough. The rest either joined the Vipers or disappeared. These 2, he gestured to himself and Ghost, we've been hiding here since last month. Diego burned my house. Tried to run Ghost off the highway. Maria felt sick. This was bigger than Tyler, bigger than one kid looking for his father. This was a war that had been brewing for years. Diego wants you back, Ryder, Ghost said. He's offering a deal. You rejoin the Vipers, help run their new trafficking operation through the southern routes, and he leaves Tyler alone. Leaves all of us alone. And if I refuse? Ryder asked, though they all knew the answer. He kills the kid. Makes you watch. Then kills you. Finn's expression was grim. He's already put a bounty out, 50,000 for Tyler's location. Someone will talk eventually. Someone always does. Tyler had gone pale. Maria instinctively moved closer to him. Ryder paced the damaged room, his jaw working. We can't run forever. We can't hide here like rats. So what do we do? Ghost asked. The answer came from the doorway. Hawk stood there, his phone in his hand, his expression strange, somewhere between hope and fear. There might be another way, he said slowly. I just got a call from Pastor Mike. You remember him? Used to ride with us 10 years back, before he found religion. Ryder nodded. He runs that roadside chapel out past the state line. He says he can help. Says he's got a plan to end this without bloodshed. Hawk paused. But you're not gonna like it, Ryder. It involves the one thing you swore you'd never do again. What? Ryder demanded. Hawk met his eyes. Trusting the law. The room fell silent. Maria looked around at the faces, hardened men who'd lived outside the system, who'd been betrayed by it. And now someone was asking them to put their faith in it. Tyler spoke up, his young voice cutting through the tension. What if that's the only way? What if running just means they chase us forever? Ryder looked at his son, this boy he barely knew, who'd already suffered so much because of him. Then we meet with the pastor, Ryder said finally. Tomorrow morning. All of us. Maria felt a shift in the room. Not quite hope, but something close to it. The possibility of a different ending. Dawn broke cold and pink over the desert highway. Maria hadn't slept, none of them had. They'd spent the night in the ruined clubhouse, taking turns keeping watch while Tyler dozed fitfully on a sleeping bag. Now they were on the move. Ryder led on his motorcycle, Tyler clinging to his back, both of them wearing helmets Hawk had scrounged up. Maria followed in Ghost's beat-up sedan, with Hawk and Finn riding their bikes behind her. The convoy moved east, toward the state line and Pastor Mike's roadside chapel. The highway stretched empty in both directions. Too empty. Maria's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. She'd learned to trust her instincts over the years, the feeling in her gut that said when something was wrong. And right now, everything felt wrong. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Ryder, sent to their small group chat. Gas station in 2 miles. Need to refuel. Stay alert. The gas station appeared like a mirage, a lone building with 2 pumps and a flickering sign that read, Last Stop Gas and Diesel. A single car sat in the lot, and the attendant's booth looked empty. Ryder pulled up to the first pump. Maria parked near the station's small store, her eyes scanning their surroundings. Desert stretched out on all sides, broken only by the highway and distant rock formations. Tyler climbed off the motorcycle, stretching his bruised ribs carefully. Can I get something to drink? He asked Ryder. Stay where I can see you, Ryder said, handing him a 20. Nothing happens without me knowing. Tyler nodded and headed toward the store. Maria got out to pump gas, her unease growing with every second. The morning was too quiet. No other cars. No sounds except the wind. That's when she saw it. A black van, coming fast from the east. No, 2 vans. Both moving well over the speed limit. Ryder! Maria shouted. He was already moving. Tyler! Back to the bike. Now! But Tyler was inside the store, and the vans were closing the distance too quickly. They screeched into the parking lot, blocking both exits. Doors flew open and men poured out, 6 of them, all wearing Viper's colors. Hawk and Finn reacted instantly, their bikes roaring to life, positioning themselves between the Vipers and Ryder. Ghost pulled a tire iron from the sedan's trunk. Well, a tall man with a teardrop tattoo under his eye stepped forward. Maria recognized the cold authority in his posture. This was Diego. The famous rider, running scared with his little found family. Let the boy go, Ryder said, his voice deadly calm. This is between us. Everything's between us now, Diego smiled without warmth. You made it between us when you testified. When you destroyed my brother's life. When you broke the brotherhood. Tyler emerged from the store, a drink in his hand, and froze when he saw the standoff. Stay back, Tyler. Ryder commanded. But one of Diego's men was already moving, circling toward the boy. Maria didn't think. She jumped back into the sedan, jammed the key in the ignition, and slammed the accelerator. The car lurched forward, cutting directly across the Viper's path to Tyler. Get in, she screamed at Tyler through the open passenger window. Tyler ran. The Viper lunged for him, but Ghost swung his tire iron, connecting with the man's shoulder. Tyler dove into Maria's car just as bullets shattered the back windshield. Go, go, go! Tyler yelled. Maria floored it, her tires screaming as she spun the sedan toward the highway exit. In her rearview mirror, she saw chaos, Hawk and Finn creating a barrier with their bikes, Ryder fighting hand-to-hand with two Vipers, Diego pulling a gun. More shots. Maria's side mirror exploded. Get down, she shouted at Tyler, who was already ducking below the dashboard. The sedan fishtailed onto the highway, heading west, away from Pastor Mike, away from safety, but away from the guns. Maria's heart threatened to burst from her chest. She'd never driven this fast. Never been shot at. Never. A black van appeared in her rearview mirror, gaining. They're following us. Tyler's voice cracked with terror. Maria's mind raced. The sedan was old, struggling to maintain speed. The van would catch them within minutes. She needed help. She needed sirens. Red and blue lights flashed in the distance, approaching from the west. Two police cruisers, racing toward them. The van behind them braked hard, making a violent U-turn and speeding back toward the gas station. Maria didn't slow down. She kept driving until the police cruisers reached her, until one pulled alongside and signaled her to stop. She pulled onto the shoulder, her whole body shaking. Tyler was pale, breathing hard, but alive. Alive. An officer approached her window. Ma'am, we got a 911 call about shots fired at last stop gas station. Are you? There are more people there, Maria interrupted, her voice shaking. My friends. They're fighting the men who shot at us. Please. The officer was already on his radio, calling for backup. Both cruisers peeled away, sirens wailing, heading toward the gas station. Maria and Tyler sat in silence, the adrenaline slowly draining, leaving them hollow and trembling. You saved me, Tyler said quietly. Again. Maria looked at the boy, this kid she'd found in an alley less than 48 hours ago, and felt something fierce and protective swell in her chest. Yeah, she said. I guess I did. Her phone rang. Ryder's name flashed on the screen. Maria, his voice was rough, urgent. Are you okay? Is Tyler? We're safe. Police scared them off. Where are you? Still at the station. Cops are here, taking statements. Diego got away, but we got 3 of his guys in custody. A pause. You totaled Ghost's car. Maria looked at the bullet holes, the shattered windows, the smoking engine. Sorry. Don't be. Ryder's voice softened. You saved my son's life. Again, another pause. Hawk's calling a tow truck. Can you sit tight for 20 minutes? We're not going anywhere. When Ryder hung up, Maria let her head fall back against the seat. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Tyler was crying quietly beside her, finally letting the fear and shock break through. Maria reached over and squeezed his shoulder. He grabbed her hand and held on like she was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. They sat there on the side of the highway, 2 strangers bound by violence and survival, waiting for the people who'd become something like family to come back for them. In the distance, more sirens wailed. And Maria realized with absolute certainty, there was no going back to her old life now. This was her life. For better or worse. She'd made the call. And she'd keep making it, as many times as it took. Pastor Mike's roadside chapel was nothing like Maria expected. She'd imagined something grand, imposing, but instead found a converted garage with a wooden cross over the door and wildflowers growing through cracks in the cement. They arrived separately, hours after the gas station incident. Ryder and the others had given statements to the police, who'd arrested 3 Vipers on assault and weapons charges. But Diego had vanished like smoke. Now they sat in a circle of mismatched chairs, Ryder, Maria, Tyler, Hawk, Finn, Ghost, and the pastor himself. Pastor Mike was maybe 60, with kind eyes and scarred knuckles that told stories of a violent past. He wore jeans and a simple black shirt, his Iron Brotherhood tattoos visible on his forearms, though someone had added a cross over the original design. "I heard about what happened this morning," Pastor Mike said, his voice gentle but firm. "Diego's getting desperate. That makes him more dangerous." "We can't keep running," Ghost said, exhausted. "Eventually they'll catch us when we're not ready." "Which is why you need to stop running," the pastor leaned forward. "There's a legal path here. A way to end this without more bloodshed." "We already testified once," Finn said bitterly. "Put 6 Vipers away. That's what started this war." "That was about past crimes," Pastor Mike said. "This is different. Diego's escalating, attempted murder, assault with deadly weapons, organized attacks. But more importantly, he's trying to force Ryder back into trafficking. That gives us leverage." "What kind of leverage?" Ryder asked, his voice cautious. "The FBI's been investigating the Vipers' trafficking routes for 18 months. They have some evidence, but not enough to dismantle the whole operation." Pastor Mike pulled out a folder. "I've been working with an agent, someone I trust. If you're willing to record Diego attempting to recruit you, to document his threats, that gives them what they need for a RICO case. Organized crime. They could take down the entire Vipers operation." The room fell silent. "You want us to wear a wire," Ryder said flatly. "To betray them again." "I want you to protect your son," Pastor Mike said simply. "And everyone else Diego will hurt if he's not stopped." "No," Ryder stood abruptly. "Absolutely not. I already crossed that line once. Look where it got us, my brother dead, Tyler beaten, Maria shot at. The Brotherhood destroyed. Every time I trust the law, people I care about suffer." "Then what's your plan?" Maria asked quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "I'm serious," she continued, standing to face Ryder. "What's your alternative? Keep hiding? Keep fighting? Watch Tyler look over his shoulder for the rest of his life?" "I'll find another way," Ryder said, but his voice lacked conviction. "There isn't another way." Maria's frustration boiled over. "I'm a waitress, Ryder. I've spent my whole life watching people make the same mistakes over and over, thinking they can handle things alone, thinking the system's too broken to work, thinking they're better off outside it. And you know what? They end up dead or in prison or running forever. You don't understand. I understand that your pride matters more to you than your son's safety." The words hung in the air like a slap. Ryder's face went dark. "How dare you?" "She's right," Tyler's voice was small but steady. Everyone turned to look at him. He was standing now too, his bruised face set with determination. "I've been listening to you guys talk about loyalty and betrayal and the Brotherhood Code. But where was that code when they beat me up? When they shot at Maria?" "Tyler," Ryder started. "No, let me finish." Tyler's voice grew stronger. "My mom spent 16 years keeping me away from this world. She died never telling me about you because she thought this life was poison. Maybe she was right. Or maybe, he looked at his father with fierce hope. Maybe you can be different. Maybe you can choose something better. It's not that simple, Ryder said, but his voice cracked. It is that simple, Tyler insisted. If you want to protect me, really protect me, then protect everyone else they're going to hurt too. Be the father my mom needed you to be. Be the man she hoped you could become. Ryder sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. The mighty biker, the fearsome Brotherhood leader, reduced to a broken man wrestling with an impossible choice. I don't know how to be a dad, he whispered. I've known you for 2 days. I've already failed you. Maria knelt in front of him, waiting until he looked at her. You rode into an alley at midnight for a son you didn't know existed, she said softly. You fought off his attackers. You've put yourself between him and bullets. You've kept him alive, she paused. You just did know how to be a dad, Ryder. You chose him every single time. Now choose him again. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Ryder's eyes were wet. He looked at Tyler, this boy who was half stranger, half miracle, and Maria saw the moment something broke open inside him. Okay, Ryder breathed. Okay. Pastor Mike nodded slowly. The FBI agent can be here tomorrow morning. She'll need detailed testimony about Diego's operations, recordings of any contact he makes. He'll contact me, Ryder said, his voice gaining strength. After this morning, he knows I'm desperate. He'll make another offer. Probably give me 24 hours to decide. He looked around at his remaining brothers. If I do this, the Vipers will see it as ultimate betrayal. Anyone associated with me becomes a target. We're already targets, Hawk said simply. Might as well make it count. Ghost and Finn nodded in agreement. Then we do this together, Ryder said. All of us. No more half measures. We give the FBI everything they need to bury the Vipers permanently. Tyler crossed to his father and, hesitantly, put his hand on Ryder's shoulder. Ryder looked up at his son and something passed between them, unspoken, but understood. Forgiveness. Hope. A fragile beginning. Thank you, Tyler whispered. Ryder pulled his son into a fierce embrace, his shoulders shaking. I'm sorry. For everything you've been through. For not being there. You're here now, Tyler said simply. That's what matters. Maria turned away, giving them privacy, her own throat tight with emotion. Through the chapel's small window, she watched the sun beginning to set over the desert, painting everything gold and red. She'd made a phone call 48 hours ago. Now she was part of something bigger than survival. She was part of something that might actually change. 6 weeks later. Maria stood in the parking lot of the newly renovated garage, watching the sun rise over what used to be the old Iron Brotherhood clubhouse. The condemned building was gone, replaced by a clean structure with fresh paint and a hand-carved wooden sign, Iron Road, fixes for families and riders. The FBI raids had happened fast. With Ryder's recordings of Diego's recruitment threats and detailed testimony about the Vipers' trafficking networks, federal agents had swept through 3 states simultaneously. Diego was arrested at a safe house in Nevada, along with 17 other high-ranking Vipers. The organization was dismantled in a single coordinated strike. The trials were still ongoing, but the prosecutors were confident. RICO charges, trafficking, attempted murder. Diego was looking at life without parole. You're early. Maria turned to see Ryder emerge from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked different now, still scarred, still imposing, but lighter somehow. Like he'd finally put down weight he'd been carrying for years. Couldn't sleep, Maria admitted. Big day. Today was the grand opening of Iron Road, the legal motorcycle repair business Ryder had built from the ashes of the Brotherhood. More than that, it was the official launch of their non-profit, Second Chance Riders, a youth outreach program teaching motorcycle safety and mechanics to at-risk teenagers. Nervous? Ryder asked. Terrified, Maria laughed. She was the project's manager, a title that still felt surreal. Ruby had thrown her a going-away party when Maria quit the diner, pressing $200 into her hand and telling her, "You deserve something better than burnt coffee and midnight shifts." "You'll be great," Ryder said. "You've organized everything perfectly. The insurance, the permits, the curriculum." "The curriculum," Tyler wrote, Maria corrected. "I just formatted it." As if summoned by his name, Tyler appeared on his bicycle, backpack slung over one shoulder. He'd started at the local high school 5 weeks ago and was slowly finding his footing. The nightmares were less frequent now. The therapy was helping. "Morning," Tyler called, parking his bike. "Coach says I can try out for track in the spring if my grades stay up." "They will," Ryder said with quiet confidence. "You're getting A's in everything but math. Which is why Maria's tutoring me tonight," Tyler grinned at her. "Right?" "Right," Maria confirmed. "But only if you've finished reading chapter 4. "Already done." The easy banter felt like a miracle. This strange little family they'd formed, born from violence and fear, had somehow found stability. Maria had moved into a small apartment above the garage office. Tyler stayed with Ryder in a modest house 3 blocks away. They ate dinner together most nights, usually takeout because none of them could cook worth a damn. It wasn't perfect. Tyler still flinched at loud noises. Ryder still woke up checking locks at 3 a.m. Maria still sometimes felt the phantom impact of bullets hitting Ghost's car. But they were healing. Together. A motorcycle rumbled into the lot, Hawk, arriving early as always. Then Ghost's new sedan. Finn pulled up on his bike minutes later. The remaining members of the original Brotherhood, now working as mechanics and mentors for the nonprofit. "Pastor Mike's bringing coffee and donuts in 30, Hawk announced. "Said something about blessing the garage before we open." "Of course he did," Ryder said with affection. By 9 a.m., people started arriving. Local families whose kids were enrolled in the program. City council members who'd supported their nonprofit application. Even Officer Chen showed up, shaking Ryder's hand and telling Tyler he was proud of him. Ruby arrived with half the diner staff, hugging Maria so tight she couldn't breathe. "Look at you," Ruby whispered. "Project manager. Making something real." "I learned from the best," Maria said. "You gave me a chance when I had nothing. And you paid it forward," Ruby said firmly. "That's what matters." The grand opening was chaotic and wonderful. Kids swarmed the garage, fascinated by the motorcycles. Parents asked questions about the program. The local newspaper took photos, Ryder teaching a teenager how to check tire pressure, Maria explaining their scholarship system, Tyler demonstrating the safety equipment. As the afternoon sun slanted through the garage doors, Maria found herself standing beside Ryder, watching Tyler laugh with a group of kids his own age. "You did good," Maria said quietly. "We did good," Ryder corrected. "None of this happens if you don't make that phone call." Maria thought back to that night, exhausted, broke, finding a dying boy in an alley. She could have walked away. Should have walked away, by any reasonable measure. But she'd made a different choice. And that choice had saved 3 lives, maybe more. "Hey," Tyler called out, jogging over with grease already smeared on his forehead. "Can we order pizza for everyone? Hawk says he'll pay." "Hawk always says he'll pay," Ryder said dryly. "But yes, order pizza." Tyler grinned and ran back to his new friends. Ryder turned to Maria. "I've been meaning to ask you something." "What?" "The apartment above the office, it's yours as long as you want it." "But," he hesitated. "If you ever wanted something more permanent, like actual family, not just." Ryder, Maria interrupted gently. We are actual family. We have been since the hospital. Something in Ryder's expression softened completely. Yeah. Yeah, we are. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their improbable family celebrate their improbable victory. A family born from a phone call. Built on scars and second chances. Held together by the simple choice to not walk away. As the sun set and the pizza arrived and laughter filled the garage, Maria realized something profound. She'd spent 25 years feeling disposable, forgettable, temporary. But here, in this garage with these people, she was essential. She was home. Tyler appeared beside them, handing Maria a slice of pizza and Ryder a soda, then wedging himself between them like he'd always belonged there. Group photo, he announced, holding up his phone. For the website. They squeezed together, Ryder's arm around Tyler's shoulders, Maria's hand on Tyler's back, all three of them grinning at the camera despite everything they'd survived. The flash went off. And in that captured moment, you could see it clearly. 3 people who'd found each other in the darkness. 3 people who'd chosen each other, again and again. 3 people who'd built something beautiful from broken pieces. A family. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. Not the ending anyone expected. But the one they all deserved. Tyler set the timer for another photo. This time Hawk, Ghost, Finn, and Pastor Mike crowded in, everyone laughing as they tried to fit in the frame. On 3, Tyler counted. 1, 2. The camera clicked. And the Iron Road garage, with its hand-carved sign and its second chance mission and its family of fighters and survivors, stood bright against the evening sky. Ready for whatever came next. Together. The end.